It's a second line day. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. A second line day. Second lines need to be called out. These are our hermits, these are naturals, but sometimes really uncertain around their abilities, not always knowing or understanding what others see in them. They need to have some discrimination, because when it comes to being called out, they really need to answer the correct call. It serves them well, really, to be particular about all sorts of things. And that can be the food that they eat or the people that are in their lives that they are having some kind of a communion with, the clothes that they wear. Because all of these things express who we are in the world, and the second line needs to have some discrimination around this. So this is the eighth gate of contribution in the second line that is called service. The exaltation says the highest good to serve selflessly, the potential to be an example through unselfish expression. These are people who can get other people involved in service, involved in all sorts of things. They're very contagious. The right angle incarnation cross associated with the 814 configuration is called the cross of contagion. In the detriment, we have where reward is a prerequisite for service, the willingness to be an example for a price. So this is all about being an example. These are people who are called out, and they are perfect examples, the best examples, or at least this is what can be projected onto them. They're not proclaiming themselves as an example, or, not usually. They're in their room. They're just walking around, minding their own business. The lights are on. Somebody outside notices them and calls them out to service. You could be an example. You could be a really good example of that. And some of them do go out and they are an example just for the heck of it, just because they can. But others will only do that if they're rewarded for it. Yeah, I'll make a contribution. Yeah, it's going to cost you, but I'll do that. Fine. They don't automatically want to contribute and serve. They actually really want to be left alone in their room. So it has to be called out of them. Second lines are projected on, but part of the mechanic is that they are also projecting out according to the gate energy that they are holding. And this second line is projecting that they are there to make a contribution and to be of service and to be an example. This is what they're being called out for. They make a contribution without really knowing what they are contributing. They're lower trigram, lower trigram. They're just doing their thing. Imagine two tour guides. One of them you're going to pay, and they have the willingness to be an example of a tour guide for a price. And the other one, they don't mind whether they get paid or not. They may not even really be an official tour guide. They will contribute their direction without really even knowing what it is they're doing. What people with this gate, and actually any second line, but particularly in this gate, which is one we're talking about now, is if they make their contribution once they've been called out, they'll be left alone, which is what they want. They have to serve. If they're called out, they serve, they make their contribution, they're left alone. And this is when their integrity can stay intact. And remember, through genetic continuity, that what is true for one second line is true for all second lines. And you do what you're called out to do, and then retreat. Go back to your hermitage. Go back to your room with the lights on. But remember also the second line, it has a resonance to the fifth line. The fifth line is called out in times of crisis for its practical solutions, and then it must withdraw. And there's a very similar vibe here with the second lines. Be called out, answer that call if it's correct for you to do that. Do whatever it is you're being called out for, and then get the hell out of Dodge. Because we need our alone time. I'm a second line, I'm a 2-4. So it's very important to do this, because it looks after our energy, and all of these things that we have is when we're operating correctly, our energy stays intact, and then we can engage in the world and we can have experiences and we can feed blackbirds. This hasn't happened for a while, hasn't it? they're nesting. They've got babies, and they get through one of these a day at the moment. I've also got, I'll tell you this, I've also got just opposite me, I can see this, and I've got outer vision as my cognition. So I've always got half an eye on what's going on out there, even when I'm engaged in contributing to you and to talking about these transits. But in the guttering of our neighbour's house, there's a starling nest, and the parents are just flying back and forth, and we got the starlings, right? Oh, this one just gone in. And they sit there. I really can't turn around, camera around, but the starling little baby comes out, and all you see is this huge mouth that opens up. It's all pink inside. This is the contribution that the starlings are making. And then they come, and they're a bit bullies, and they're really funny. They have almost like their wings are tucked behind their backs, and there's just little prots around like this. And they eat everything. They're very voracious, really. Anyway, that's completely got nothing to do with gate 8. Although it must have, because I'm talking about it. But anyway, I have to remember where I was now. Okay, so I think I talked about that, and we'll move on to 14 now, which is the grounding energy. And in the second line, it's called management. So the only thing that the 14 needs to know is where to put their energy. And they can ground the 8 by managing the service in the 8 too, making sure that the energy is there for them to serve. Second lines have to be called out, all of them, because nothing much happens when we're on our own in the room watching the starlings. We learn about ourselves through our relationships with others. And this is the same for everybody. It's that, is it Swahili? I can't ever remember what the language is. Ubuntu, which is we are who we are through our relationships with other people. When I'm just sitting on my own in the room, fine. Nothing's really conditioning me, the transit field, but there are no people around conditioning me. I am just sat in my own space, in my own energy. And I don't learn about myself in that way, not really. Not unless I'm doing some kind of deep contemplation. But when someone else comes into my field and there's an interaction, then that's when we learn. That's when our openness can be conditioned. That's when we find out about things, how we're going to respond, react, or whatever it is we're doing. So the 14 here is bringing in the energy for the 8 to serve. The 14 really wants to fuel the direction. It's a sacral gate. It's potentially very powerful. When the conditions are there and the right connections are there, then it can go up through the 2 and through the 1 and push this fuel right up into the 8 so that the contribution can be expressed through the throat. It's directing that contribution. It's managing the direction of the unique service of the 8 line 2. So what do you have in your own chart around this? Are you activated here in this whole column through this transit? Do you have it in your chart consistently anyway? What's your experience of serving selflessly, making your contribution without the desire for a reward, or perhaps the price is important to you? All of which is fine, no judgment here. Would you like to explore that? Would you like to share with me what you find out? The moon is still in gate 4, which is the Ajna. This is youthful folly, trying to find answers for all the doubts that are coming in from the 63 above it. And at 11:31, the moon transits into gate 29. This is called the abysmal. It's the gate of perseverance, the gate of saying yes. And it's a sacral gate. So in a way, it's saying yes to life. In fact, trying to get anyone who's got gate 29 to say no to anything can be a challenge. It's a good one to really kind of dig into and know about, because you can end up using your energy on all sorts of things that really are maybe not correct for you if you're not going into them correctly when you have this gate 29. The other end of the channel is gate 46. So this is the identity and direction. And it's called the gate of the channel of discovery. So what you're saying yes to could be really potentially interesting, discovering something new, having a new experience. But it does require commitment, and it does require some sense of perseverance when you lead into something new. You want to be able to finish that experience, to get the gift from that experience, if that's what's correct. But of course, if you're going in and you're going in through strategy and authority, and then halfway through your strategy and authority is like, no, we're out of here, that doesn't mean it was bad. It means you did what you needed to do and you've got out. As long as it's not the mind getting involved because it's bored or something else comes along, or, it's too hard. This is often my mind. Oh, it's too hard. Okay. I don't have gate 29. I am quite grateful I don't have gate 29. I say yes, enough as it is. Like, pull back. And did my strategy say yes, or was that my mind? Well, we live and learn. Or we live anyway. The abstract circuit here for the 29, it's all about experiences, not meeting expectations, not having preconceptions. If you have an open ego, be really careful about making your commitments, because you're not designed to make a firm commitment. Always give yourself that little, like, yes, yeah, for now, maybe. And if you've got a defined ego, be careful about making your commitments, because damaging your heart is a real consideration if you're committing to something that actually you really don't have the energy for. And either you go through with it and you push through with it because your ego is defined and you're going to damn well do it, or you actually decide you're not going to do it. And then you kind of break your heart when you break your promise. So these are things to be aware of. This is the focus the moon is bringing to us. And then it moves into gate 59, which is the gate of sexuality. Now, is this something you've said yes to? Now you're gonna, yeah, okay. 2248, this goes into gate, the moon goes into gate 59. And this is the ability to break down barriers to achieve union. It's a sacral gate again. It's a gate of fertility. It's naturally very intimate. It's able to break through auric barriers, looking for union. Strategy and authority, you can see why this might be really useful to use here. It's kind of essential before we enter into intimate relationships correctly, and to do this correctly, to avoid wasting our energy on superficial or dissatisfying relationships. Yeah, that's it. I think that's all I've got for you today in the weather. It's spring. Spring is coming. Yeah, 8-2. We're on the 8-3 tomorrow. Go gently until then. Thank you for watching.